welcome. We are starting, a little delayed, but starting nonetheless, our second book talk in the College of Arts and Architecture. Before we get started, I want to thank the Department of Art History. This was a brilliant idea that came out of a Department of Art History conversation. And it's an idea that's worth building on, and we're doing that. So now we're extending out to other parts of the college. So, Michelle, you're the first non-art history faculty member. You're only the second one. The first one was art history. So,
Right.
But nonetheless, you're the first non-art history. So thanks to the Department of Art History for the great idea. Also, thank you to the Office of Research, Creative Activities, and Graduate Studies for sponsoring and supporting this series. So we'll spend about, usually it's about an hour. We can spend a little bit less now that we've figured out the timing issue. But we'll do some chatting about your book. And we'll also leave space to entertain questions from the audience.
Yes.
I have some questions. I have ideas that I want to talk about with your book. I sent you a couple of questions, but I didn't send you all my questions.
Okay.
So be ready for some
It's
good
more
questions.
improvised.
There you go. That's it. No, but this is really a conversation, and we'll open it up to the audience, and then we'll have our reception. So the book is Teaching Civic Participation with Digital Media in Art Education: Critical Approaches for Classrooms and Communities, edited by Michelle Bae-Dimitriadis and Olga Ivashkevich. And you and Olga have worked together many times over your careers, haven't you? How did you meet Olga?
Oh, we were in the same department when we were graduate students.
Where
So
was
we
that?
grew up together, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, our education department. So we are under the Paul Duncombe, Dr. Paul Duncombe's, advising. And that's where we met each other, and we are kind of also finding, a lot of us similar areas we are interested in, and we are building up together, and we are sharing. Sometimes we compete each other. And that's what we grow our friendship. At the same time, scholarship and relationships together. So she particularly worked with a lot of incarcerated youth in the South Carolina. I've been working with refugee community in Buffalo, but my doctoral dissertation is about the more Korean American, particularly diasporic experience from Korea to US in the very early ages, like a junior high and high school levels. And that's my kind of participation for participants for my doctoral dissertation. That's what I start with, the community artwork. But however, when I switched to the Buffalo, which is even their diasporic community from their refugee setting, and then they are totally different social, political, and economical different groups in Buffalo. That's actually my community interest, community art practice interests throughout the years, and then also this practice is more media art-based practice. So, which is when I was in the Urbana-Champaign, that time we make the game and we make the many different visual artwork through the media, and very diverse ways to be present, and we work together. And then we moved to the Buffalo is much more mobile, because in the past there's no mobile mobile technology.
Right.
But around the 2008 and 9, and that is a starting point to have more mobile technology. So we try to kind of bring out the mobile stories from their own exploration of the city. That has been actually for many, many years built up for the mobile stories. And also, digital comic books, and that is a kind of created, graphic novel here. So very diverse kind of media projects we've done. That's what we actually build up with the, even Olga is in different contexts.
Right.
We have been experienced on that.
So those years of work on separate projects that you and Olga have worked on, but also your collaborative works, you're a pretty good team.
Yes.
You're a pretty good team. And, you know, to edit a book, you have to assemble a set of authors
Yes.
who are also in some ways a team as well.
Exactly.
So how did you and Olga go about deciding the authors in this book? Tell us about that process, the call, how it went out, how you decided.
Yeah, actually by the
ultimately who was gonna be on.
time we do this book, is we have done several edited books before this. But this is more targeted to the art education folks because it's we see that huge, actually that goes back to one of your questions about what motivates us to kind of bring this book, is that we found a lot of K through 12 school setting. Digital technology is so behind compared to the really our youth lives. Actually, they're outside of school. They are much active, much actually savvy in the technology. But K through education was the places actually there's a really almost 1980s kind of a level.
They're not still using dot matrix printers.
Right.
I mean, that would be pretty.
So huge
pretty old school.
gaps. Actually, not just only technology itself, even K through 12 setting has really, we question about the civic engagement topic is really absent there. And what is we really expect the K through 12 school setting is where actually those civic engagement and participatory culture, those aspects should be there, but there's none of them in the our education courses.
Right. So can I stop you there,
Yeah.
Michelle? Because on the title, we have civic participation. I understand what participation is, but you've mentioned a couple of times civic engagement. Can you help us understand what that means?
Yes, civic engagement, I just synonymously use participation too. From our perspective is that even, these youth encounter so many different, social issue, environmental issue that is always connected to their personal issue too. But however, we are questioned about how they can really much more expand their civic participation in a way to address those issues and then bring out their own voice. Because, oftentimes we perceive youth they are using the media, it's more like a, daily, just a play, or it's a very unnecessary but, time consuming, but still they are, really into those areas. But however, civic engagement is much more, we see their potential to engage in the more political realm too, and social realm too. In that sense, how they are really thinking about those issues rather than just following national paradigms of, what does it mean to be a citizen? Oftentimes, school is though another very kind of taking onto this national curriculum to, we belong into the, dominant narrative, dominant script, and this, social norms. But however, we think about that, art and media never be really actually, the inherent nature is not really subordinated to them. But however, here, civic engagement, what we say is not really kind of subordinating and just fitting into those systems. We found that there's a lot of justice, injustice issues and inequalities, and bring into their own lives to make a claim, reclaim their own view about the civic.
That's really helpful. I believe you and Olga, you rely on several scholars to ground the work theoretically, but I know Henry Jenkins is one of the initial people that you established as a foundation for this work. Can you talk a little bit about Henry Jenkins' work in terms of civic engagement? He wasn't necessarily dealing with digital media in his early work about 30 years or so ago. How is Henry Jenkins' work 30 years ago still relevant to the foundation of this book?
It's really incredibly, actually, Henry Jenkins, even before really, but however, he's really foresee the certain this technology area is really kind of shifting and going to the very, very dynamic ways in the future. Because it's already, we see from the film and all this other media, we kind of already foresee certain things. Can you imagine that in the past, that when people, watching the certain different kind of, this day it's our common practice. When you see the cell phone, you call and you see the person the other side.
Right.
But 30 years we never much thought about that would be happening, right? But however, we watched the sci-fi movie, and that was not reality, but actually it becomes reality.
That's right.
Now. In the same way, we see that Henry Jenkins see that really bigger picture. And then he saw the possibilities of this digital technology as a ways to not just only kind of thinking about how to use the software, not a technically kind of see it as a technology education. It's more about that this is another kind of our social communication, and it's right now we cannot dissociate at all, right?
That's right.
That is what I think Henry Jenkins bring about that part, to see the potential to be a more democratic participation through this digital media as a possibility for the civic engagement. It's not just only following the dominant script. It's much more, there's a possibility to bring out our own voices through that things.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's we talk a lot about interdisciplinary work.
Yeah.
I think Jenkins, I think you referenced David Buckingham, you referenced several other folks whose work isn't in art education.
Right.
It's in media studies. It's in media literacy, right?
Exactly.
And so being able to have art educators draw on that work, bring it into our field, and then move it into other spaces, I think that makes for a pretty dynamic commentary. And speaking of those people, I'm thinking about the folks that you selected for this book. Penn Staters are in this book. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why, because we do a pretty good job of not necessarily staying within our own discipline, but pulling away. And people like our own Karen Kiefer Boyd, professor of art education and women's gender sexuality studies. Ryan Patton is in the book. He's down at VCU. Christina Liao is in the book. Hunji Kwan is in the book. I mean, these are alumni and former students, alumni, and current faculty members here.
Right.
Penn State's got a pretty good handle on this digital media thing. Or is it just because you and Olga know people?
Well, I think both.
It's both.
Both. And our education, we have a pretty small area. We know everybody, each other,
That's
right?
true. That's true.
Actually, it's a really striking thing is when you go to a conference, you know everybody. And also, build up relationship for a long years. So we know that who's study what. And then some are we invite, some are also kind of they, submit the proposal so that we select, a lot of actually, we got almost 60, 70 proposal.
60 to 70 proposals.
And
you
then we
ended up with
selected
what, 14? 12?
Yeah. So
I'm checking your math. Yes, you're correct. Yes.
It's a pretty,
11 in your introduction.
Yeah,
Yes.
but not all. Interesting, not all from the art education. Actually, for some way, people knows from the media studies, they also submit that. But however, oftentimes media studies, they do not dealing with how to even teach those aspects to the students. And a lot of pedagogical and methodological aspects is missing. But our education folks has also, really kind of engage in the more pedagogical aspects and curriculum aspects. Those are much more, actually, particularly this book, it's much more helpful to include. That's something we prepare to more, actually.
Well, that was like one of the lenses, right? I mean, for 60 or 70, you narrow that down. there's about 50 or 60 that
Yeah.
don't get in the book.
Yeah.
The pedagogical piece is clear here. Right, so okay, so the selection process, was that the primary criterion? Is people addressing the pedagogical?
Pedagogical, and also it could be curriculum too, but particularly more important is that we have 3 different sections. One section is geared toward the actually media education in the K through 12 setting, and some are into the community setting, and some are more conceptual, theoretical, aspects there.
So those are the 3 sections, right?
Yeah.
The theoretical is the first section, second section is K-12,
Yes.
third section is the civic or the community-based.
Right.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's much more, methodology and pedagogy. Actually, methodology within the, education is much more, pedagogical part too. So those are very important for this, audiences in a way that when we look through a lot of publication, lots of great books on the media or critical media, and lots of different diversities there, but I rarely see that. How to really teach, this media, advanced media, to the classroom setting, and how to approach is a really huge missing part.
So
that's what we focus on, pedagogical aspects too.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I would imagine in some ways that's pretty easy to do, the pedagogical piece, because, as you said, now students have, they carry these things around. Many of them carry these things, not everyone, right? And if they're doing a lot of this work outside of school, it should be easy to translate within school. But at the same time, I would imagine that makes it even more difficult because they come with certain preconceptions and ways of doing it, and the teachers have to make sure they're keeping up. Which is it, or is it a mix of both?
I think there's some dynamics. Actually, in this setting, these youth are more teacher than teachers. A lot of adults are behind. So in that sense, this is a very cherishable kind of aspects that we see oftentimes in conventional manner. We see youth as still deficient. Still they need to grow, or they need to expertise and has to have some competency, always from the adult standard. In this field, one of the part is this youth is the teacher. They have more voice to bring out, and sometimes we are in teacher. They look at us as what a behind. They could not really handle their patients for us to keep up with them. So those are actually we see as a potential of agency, and how even not just only technical aspects, but also how the ideas and those techniques bind together to pushing their voices out. So that's something we see that dynamics. But however, not just only teacher and youth, there's also, particularly in the K through 12 setting, the administrator and policy. Those are much more challenging part.
Why are they more challenging?
Because they still have a very conventional, ideas that technology is really good for, but not for the civic engagement. They are afraid to see that, because the civic engagement youth we are proposing and we are, critical educator push them is really they bring their social and political issues to connect to their personal issue to really reclaim the space. Which is, that could be a lot of times school administrators sees as a disruption to their agenda.
The agenda meaning the curriculum?
Yes,
right.
National curriculum, which is, always in the goodness, under the name of good teaching, is always, we expect students to follow us and, more like, banking model.
Yes,
and
right.
Still a lot of K-12 schooling is banking model.
And banking model meaning we have knowledge that needs to be deposited
Right.
into students.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then also task-driven kind of, test-driven knowledge. You have to pass the SAT to certain level, and all this going to the, those directions. In that, where really children's knowledge is really explored and opened up. Oftentimes, the students' very kind of subversiveness is considered as a really disruption to the, class, and then they could be expelled or their ideas erased. Or, however, those are those we see as a really essence for this project and this kind of learning.
Some people would call that being pretty radical, and this book incites that radical approach, right? To encourage students to bring in the political, social, cultural realms.
Right. But however, also, those teachers, there's a great teachers out there. I do not dismiss our K through 12 schooling, but what I'm saying is the structure of the K through setting in United States, who really create that structure for certain marginalized, minoritized students cannot speak their voice. Within that setting, actually, what kind of learning we are having, our students having, and what kind of even ways our even student teachers experiencing there. It's a we bring out a lot of radical ideas and very critical ideas should be toward more social justice, but there's a lot of blocks there. Those are more bombarded with this school administration, under the name of good teaching. What does it mean, good teaching? Probably this approach never fit in there much. If you have a great teacher, as probably there's some cases in the book. However, those teachers fighting against those, administration level, right? Also policy level. How we as advocate between community and school and even our higher education, our, teachers and also, researchers. I believe that we should not be really disconnected. We have to really support those, solidarity and support those teachers.
Absolutely.
To really bring out the, ethical and justice way.
Absolutely. The, part of what you're sharing, not only in your discussion, but also what I find in the book is, you would think digital media, civic engagement, civic participation, that sounds like social media to me, right? That sounds like YouTube videos. But that really is a small piece of what this book is about. You really talk more about the conceptual and the pedagogical.
Right.
Did you get many submissions that wanted to talk about Facebook and TikTok and social media, or did the people who submitted really get the essence of where you wanted the book to head?
Well, this book has been done actually 5 years ago. But however...
5 years ago?
Yeah, we submitted everything almost 4 or 5 years ago.
And it was just published this year in 2024. I mean, it came out in 23, but it says 2024. Yep.
The reason is that NAEA and Routledge, it's both publications together, which is our first book is the first actually joint publication between NAEA and Routledge.
Wow. So for y'all that don't know, NAEA is National Art Education Association.
Right.
So this is the first book co-published by NAEA and Routledge.
Yeah, that's why this time actually we're going to the National Art Education Association conference soon. And Routledge and NAEA, they both make it this as one of a setting event for, for us to talk to. And we've been submitted to the NAEA, but there's a COVID that took place and a lot of a shortage of staffs to really process this. A lot of changes took place. That's why it's keep kind of really postponed, and we were very anxious actually. because technology, field of technologies keep changing. Right now, we talk about AI and chat, GPT kind of things, right? But that time, we didn't much talk about the AI. We do the definitely virtual reality kind of aspects there, but you see that you're probably not seeing the AI and
No,
chat.
it's not here. I mean,
Right, that time it's not really popular or, even there's not much talk there. So that's something happening. And then, at some point, okay, now Routledge, really coming into, and work with the NAEA, and then they push us to publish. And we have to go through another round of a review process and things, because the first time when we submit the whole books to the NAEA, which is quite a while, it's been 3-4 years, right? So we have to really update some more information.
oh, right. You don't want it to look like it was outdated as soon as it's published, right?
So that's why we have to update, and we submit to the Routledge for the review process.
Oh my goodness.
And then we published. But it's thankfully we focused on our education in the beginning. But however, it's still. This is very kind of valuable for what I see is that a lot of people who are not in the even education, because we all encounter with, we cannot get rid of education in our lives, isn't it, right? even,
That's right.
even the university setting, and even we sometimes consider as, oh, we are artists, but if you are in the certain setting, we always have to engage in teaching. So in that sense, we see that, this is even title is in our education, but it's not just only our education. It's media education, and, it could be more diversified area.
Would you say that with respect to that, would you say that you and Olga are pushing the definition of art education? Not necessarily that this isn't really art education, but
we see that even our education doesn't mean that it's really kind of reduced the kind of area of field of only art education. It's really more generally.
So it's more expansive.
Think about,
Go to some notes here. What I also find interesting is so the digital divide is something that I know for years people have talked about, right? I mean, this is all well and good, but again, as I was mentioning, all students, well, not all students would have this, right? And even access to high-speed internet or digital communication technologies. How did you and Olga and the authors deal with that notion of digital divide? Was it a blanket assumption that, well, everybody has access to this? Or did you have to push on some of the authors to remind people that you can't speak in broad general terms, assuming everyone has access to technology?
Definitely. Actually, one of the reasons we push this book is also because of digital divide. We also experience it, or we observe it, because we both, working in the minoritized community. Actually, this digital technology is always, related to this money-making business, right? It's more, consumerist and also capitalist, device. In that sense, a lot of minoritized low economic stance, which is very hard to access in many different ways. That is actually one of the ways we see that. But however, we see the mind of this minoritized voice. Even that's why, digital technology is not technology only as a software or whatever things. It's idea, content, and how civic engagement is particularly the content. How these kids, really bring out their ideas, but this limitation of digital aspects. But there is also, I see that a lot of sensitivity in this community, And they also found a lot of free software. And even I was briefly talked to you before you coming here. Even we created this one in Buffalo. However, these kids has really limited technology equipment. Even one computer for 5 kids using in their own family. Even internet connection is not high speed at all. Cell phone is very limited, and they cannot use data. They only do the certain very few, activity there. However, they are really within that absence. They are find something really they can do. That's what I was very fascinated by, seeing those, community. We often see that they are deficient or they are, more deficit kind of a community. Actually, which is not in terms of the capabilities. So, of course, if they have already really advanced the technology equipped in their life, oh my God, they could be genius more than anybody's. But however, even this absence of this advanced technology, but bring their ability to really kind of create their own space to even working on it.
Sure.
That is our actually, contribution for this project, actually.
Well, I think it's an important contribution, right? Because it helps you move away from the argument that technology is evil or digital media is harmful or it goes
Right.
against the curriculum. You're really, if we think more old school, you're teaching or encouraging critical reflection, right? Critical thinking, resourcefulness, invention. But actually, now that I say all those things, I can see how that could be dangerous too. Right? So, but the resourcefulness piece, I think, is really important because we pull it away from the technology specifically. You should be able to take that resourceful way of thinking or engaging with issues and apply it to whatever technologies, whether they're digital or not. Was that something that you found many of the authors brought to their chapters, or did you have to encourage them to reflect on that
During
piece?
the process, they've done, but they are not really articulate in the writing. Sometimes they did, but however, they are really consciously also, deliberately, bring out that things. But, during this, process, we as an editor, we try to heighten those aspects, try to more, reinforce them to really more highlight those part. Those are our job, during the process.
Without taking away their voice.
No.
Without taking away their story.
No.
Right? Without taking away their argument or perspective. So you're like the spice on the
Yes,
food, right?
exactly. Yeah. It's not something we ask them to shift or change the narrative. Existing narrative they bring up, but we really did a spice up, in there.
This is an edited book. The book we discussed in the last iteration of this broadcast, which actually was the first one, was a single authored text. This is an edited text.
Right.
And so I think it's really helpful to talk about that process as we are now. What did the authors teach you? Or what did you and Olga walk away with as a result of working with all of these authors at different stages, at spicing up whatever they were putting in front of you?
First of all, I really appreciate all the authors who bring out actually very fascinating work, and which is we have some shared kind of ideas. That's what we bring out as a proposal, right? Some shared idea about the youth and community and school setting for this civic engagement through the technology, media technology. But however, each pieces really bring out the different context and different mediums with the different social issues and things to really kind of showing the agency. Those are the really what I see that something cherishable, and that taught us that how diverse contexts bring out the different voices. That's actually huge actually contribution to this project, and I learned that not just only sometimes, of course, there's a lot of intellectually stimulate certain projects, but also the process is really something more personal level, also mentoring process. But mentoring is not something me as a hierarchical position is I know everything kind of aspects, which is not that way, and they also contribute to my growth. At the same time, I contribute to certain ways to also their growth too. So those communication and waiting and patience and understanding, those are the most cherishable part, actually, beyond the intellectual aspects, I don't know. I thought, everybody's can pursue the intellectual aspects, but always a relationship is, I see, even very important part of our lives. So that's what I see in this project. And particularly remember that this is, we started out 4 or 5 years ago, and we finished that time, but waiting this time.
Sure.
None of these authors withdraw themselves. They could publish it to the other place.
Absolutely.
That is really, I learned that their commitment, loyalty, and also trust level. They keep trusting us. We only hear from NAA say, oh, it's still, we get there, but we get there first million times. And then we have to communicate to our authors, and we same ways million times. We said, yes, thank you for your patience. Or this email record is really something,
That's your next book. You could just publish all of the emails.
And we appreciate actually their really commitment in that sense.
Well, it speaks highly of not only their commitment, but the relationship that you and Olga built with these authors, that they felt committed to the project and wanted to stay with you. And credit goes to both of you as well.
I really, I am very honored, and we are just a team and community. Community. It's I really wish our scholarship is beyond just as I mentioned, just only intellectual, but how our personal lives connecting to those intellectual is our actually goal of a scholarship in terms of since I'm engaged in community work. So
can we talk about community a little bit? That word gets used quite a lot. Right. Community could be the neighborhood a few blocks away. Community could be, and again, the book references this. Communities like LGBTQ plus community, or African American community, or Asian American community, or Asian community, or it could be, we could talk about community in that way. We can talk about online community. Right. What's community? I mean, if it can be used in so many different ways.
And oftentimes, what I noticed that when people talk about community, they all right away thinking about ethnic community. But which is right now our contemporary lives is much more complex, and also depends on idea you come around together to make a community, and which is actually endless community you can create this, right? So I think that's one of the things is definitely it's important to expand the ideas and concepts around the community. I also encourage us to, regardless of race and class or things, those really social categories, to really come together to make a community, which is very idealized. which is maybe that could be our goal for this, belonging, sense of belonging in this national, curriculum. But also at the same time, I very cherish that this minoritized community, their own community to build up their own strength is also very important. And I do not here to make it what community means here. It's more about how we can really make many different communities to actually for sustainable life. Our own ethnic community gives us and support certain ways of living. And at the same time, there's other communities, regardless of other, but maybe some, topic-oriented community, issue-oriented community, or certain work-oriented community. It's also very important, especially in this fabric of American society. It's really built up for, many diversities here, right? So it's very challenging. Sometimes, me as a person of color, who going to the mainstream is still very challenging. And higher education is another very challenging areas. Maybe sometimes when I go to actually my own ethnic community, doesn't mean that you are full belonging there either. There's so many diversifying aspects in there. And that's actually, to me, I'm not here to answer those questions. It's more about thinking about certain challenges. How probably it's not only my story, many people might have that story. How we really thinking about sustainable life and belonging is in the many different communities. How to serve those things is it's probably our homework, but well, I don't know. When thinking about this American life, I'm not hugely thinking about positive only, but imagination to be at this moment. Still, I do not want to give up that imagination of a belonging and also community, many multiple communities to belong.
Absolutely.
It's a really kind of it's a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey. And I like how you framed it in context of challenge, right? It's not necessarily something to answer, but think about it as challenges that are dynamic. So one of the challenges I would imagine for an edited book generally, but this one in particular, I think, based on the way you framed the idea, you're not talking about the technologies or the software. It's about the conceptual, about civic participation in these three different realms, right? The conceptual, and then you have the K-12 and the community-based. Who's the audience for this book? Sounds like a lot of people could gravitate toward this or could benefit from it. Usually you think, okay, this book was written for this group or this community, if I dare use that phrase, right? But who's the audience? Who's the community you're hoping to reach with this text?
Well, I am hoping to majorly also, first of all, it could be very general audiences, but definitely, our education, K through 12, and also community setting, and even researchers, it's a very diverse, actually, in the field of our education and media education and education field, especially also even media, media studies too. And also, this is even, people who have their own kids, they're also getting the education, right?
Sure.
And even as a parents, and always parents are very, sensitive about that their kids use the media, and always try to monitor what they are pray about, what they spend, time for that. But always in the back of their mind, this media is more negative part. But I want to expect more advanced thinking that, in the world, there's no such a only good or bad, right? How we really keep, really crossing these boundaries and dualistic mode of thinking, Now we cannot get rid of media in our life at all. I am the generation who experienced analog, but also experienced digital, right?
The analog generation.
Right.
Okay.
But I cannot imagine how am I going back to the before 1980s, to without any media, to typewriting. And sometimes I see that a lot of young generation, they really kind of make it as a trend, as a retro trend, make it going back to the more retro life without any, advanced technology. Yes, that's also another kind of move. Is more balancing life in that sense. But I see that there's a good part. It's really a lot of accessibility and a lot of resources. Of course, there's sometimes too much plethora of resources make us very very too much information. To overload in our lives is sometimes really not good in your health. But also at the same time, which is that is the also venue for particularly a lot of people who bring out their voice to really participate in the democratic process. It's really useful ways to live. Without technology, is right now unrealistic, and probably it's not going back to in the past. Never, never, ever. Right now, AI, ChatGPT is now becoming our new life, new paradigm. A lot of critics says, there's a danger, there's a challenges and possibilities. They're really bringing out all this conversation. Always when they change the new media, certain paradigm, there's a certain hype there. But once at some point you actually assimilate to it, and you become the part of this, machinic life again. And I'm just really, rather than negatively think about, I'm still think about some more positive and some more different lifestyle. I am imagining that, and then from there, how we also our civic participation can really make it into what ways of a direction to think about social justice. Those are just very, very interested in to think about.
Sure, I agree.
That could be my maybe next work.
I was going to ask you about what the next work could be. And that was one of the two questions I want to ask. Then I have a set of 5 questions.
Okay.
With really quick answers, or they could be longer, but typically they're intended to be quick answers, and then we'll open it up to the room. But so before I get to the next project question, you talked about how long it took for this book to move from your, the concept through publication. That's 5 years is a long time. 4 or 5 years is a long time. How did the book change? Not only, the author stayed with you.
Yeah.
Did the book change over time? I know you said, time has changed from beginning to end, but did your concept of the book, your concept of civic engagement change over time?
The concept is still very, very, adequate and still, really important any time, any stage at this moment. So we didn't much change the concept. But we changed a certain more, updated kind of a publication and some little more add to it. It's not hugely changed the structure and concept.
Okay, good.
And then we maybe, ask our authors to tweak a little bit more to the, current aspects.
So it played out this whole idea of, focusing on the conceptual will lead you there. The particulars are just instances.
Yeah, actually, when we started from the proposal and then we got the, abstract review, and then, we got the full script and review process. We did twice revision stage.
Oh, okay.
It took 2 years. Then we are waiting for 3-4 years. It's more about waiting time, you know.
You waited longer than it took to
Right.
put the book together.
Yeah.
Well, it happens sometimes. Let's hope the next project doesn't function that way. And then, which is the last question before we get to some quick 5 questions. What's your next project, and will it be with Olga?
Well, I have right now already several projects in my hand. First of all, for me, I'm working on right now book contract soon, and which is my last 12 years community work with the refugee kids. I have so many stories and so many, thinking, and really I felt important to publish my own book. And this book is not just the art education, I am geared toward the audience in humanities and, more diverse, aspects. And those are my more serious work because I am presenting their work. I have a lot of responsibility to how to present and what to present, which is I want this community to engage in my project. It's not about only my own intellectual, ego-driven kind of work. It's more about these groups' voices through my book. That's what I am very excited to write, and also very honored to have a chance to write. Those are my serious book, and I am also currently working with Handbook of Arts, Critical Arts-based work that is co-edited with Gloria Wilson in Ohio State, and also the Vanessa Lopez in Maryland Art Institute. And we have actually collected very more invitational, very selective actually artists and artists. That doesn't mean they're only visual artists. There's music and there's poet. There's many diverse, actually, artists. Particularly, we focus the global majority, which that means, the artists of color and art scholars of color, and they will bring up their own art space and thinking about the process of their art making as a research aspects in there. That's what they are bring out. And we already actually got all the abstracts at this moment, and we start reviewing. I think almost right now we have so many abstracts, which is almost 50.
50?
Yeah, 50 abstracts. But still, there's more people I actually invite to the South Africa. They are on the way.
Well, Michelle, if you behave like that, if the book takes 5 years to publish like this one, it's going to be your fault, not anything else.
But these folks really kind of publisher, which is a Routledge handbook, they're promised.
That's good.
Since I've been experiencing this, I just really kind of nailed down. We're not going that way.
Focused and refined. You got it. Well, that sounds really exciting.
Yes.
That you have these 2 projects that are related because of you. One, I know, is essentially your professional life's work, the work in Buffalo,
Yes.
and then the more recent text that you mentioned,
Yeah.
really spreading out to
Yeah.
a group of authors and artists and scholars who maybe you don't see their work in the same collection all the time. Is that fair?
In what way in same collection?
Well, in edited volumes or in journals, you might see some. I'm imagining the people who might be in this book. I'd imagine, unless it's a special issue, you probably see 1 or 2 of their pieces in certain journals. Here, you're going to pull these folks together and probably shed a spotlight on the group as well as the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
That's just my imagination at work there.
But we definitely know, actually, our editors for this handbook, really, we pushing how we more highlight this artist in a different venue too. Not just only through the book, even we could build up some website, or we just really, because we see that it's just amazing artists and poet and musicians and theater, we need more acknowledge these voices. And also we make it as a critical art-based research, because art-based research actually created by the white scholarship. But Gloria and I engage in the more decolonizing and anti-racist focus on how those ideas can be reframing this art-based work. That's what we are actually theorizing. That's for this book's about.
Got it. Well,
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing that one. Looking forward to it. All right, Michelle, I have 5 questions here, and then we'll open
Easy
it to...
question?
Well, sure, they're easy questions. They're easy questions. You might know...
Informal question?
Informal questions. But I like to ask these questions. These are inspired in some way by the show Inside the Actors Studio, but also it's a way to help people to get to know the author and the editor a little bit better. So, ready?
Why I'm more nervous?
I don't know. You have some of the questions already. All right. So here's the first question. Other than this book, what's your favorite book?
Among my books? Or?
Any book that's ever been written except this one. Which is your favorite book?
Oh my God, that is the hardest question. I have so many my favorite books, actually. Well,
they only get harder, the questions.
Oh no. Is that protocol that more harder?
That's it.
Actually, I don't know. It just pops up for there's a novel and there's many different genre there. You
want us to come back to this question?
Yeah, but though actually my all-time favorite book was the Name of a Rose.
Umberto Eco.
Yes.
It's turned into a movie.
Yes,
right?
I was totally disappointed at the movie.
Well,
when I read that book, it really makes me visualize all this space and all these symbols. And I keep tracking all these things. I draw my own ways to actually engage in that book. So that was one of a fascinating book. I still remember. That is my all-time book.
Good. It's an amazing book. Eco wrote so many books, but that one, you have to visualize that book.
Exactly. And then also all these deep theoretical debates about, really religion and philosophy, all this come together for us to really think about in real life too,
Yeah.
And a lot of, the sacred and not sacred, boundaries and how to make the judgment by those, churches and, or these Catholic, ideas.
After I read Name of the Rose, I said, Umberto Eco knows everything. He just doesn't know it. He knows a lot of. There's so much
because
in that
that's
book.
what a genius.
That's it. That's it.
Always.
All right, you want to go to a harder question?
Oh my goodness.
What's your favorite word?
There's also many. Always hard to choose
There are
it.
a lot of words
But
to choose from.
I'm gonna just come up with my favorite frequent, word that connects to the ideas I wanted to experience. Deep simplicity.
What?
Deep simplicity.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that word.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what does it mean?
Oh, since it is more like from my life experience. There's always a lot of things happening. A lot of things. Even when you go into the even computer, there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, and then that put me into the how can we live a more simple life, more deeply simple life. Probably I see that this simplicity is make me more rest and also, more healing place. That's what I usually think about, because you are not that in the simple place, you live. That's why more desire for this simplicity.
I like it. I like it. On the other end of the spectrum, what is your least favorite word? Told you they get harder.
I don't know. It's word for word. Instead of a word, the phrase, I usually do not want to, engage or do not want to even hear or exercise myself. It's up to you. And I don't care. Those two words are least favorite. I thought about, anyhow, we live in very individualistic capitalist society. Our decision making is all us, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to remind us that it's up to you, right?
That's a given.
Right. We always consciously think about our decision making is our soul, lonely process. Then, those words is becoming my list.
Okay. All right. I will refrain from using that phrase around you. Question
Thank
for
you.
Michelle. What is your favorite place to spend time?
Oh my goodness, that's my favorite question.
Oh, good.
I sometimes, in order for me to rest and healing, I always, I don't know, that really question directs me to going to the temple in Korea. I usually do not much think about Korean place, but whenever I thought about the favorite place, take me to temple in Korea, which is always in the mountain and very serene and a lot of natures and bird chirping, and even in the rainy thunderstorms, occur, but those sound and sonic and place and all attached together really make me feel very peaceful. Even I am not Buddhist, I'm not associated with much religious, practice, but however, those are the, temple is the place.
Sounds like a beautiful
Yeah.
place.
And temple cuisine.
And temple cuisine, absolutely.
Very, vegan.
Yeah. All right, last question, then we'll open it up to the room. If you were not an art educator, what would be your profession?
That's also really good ways to take me to imagination. I like to be, not just only one few things. I like to be architect, and I like to be also visual artist, more soul visual artist rather than, and also pianist. Seems like all really art-related place.
You really wouldn't leave the college. You would just go from one building to the next, Yeah.
Exactly. and also another one is a film critic.
We can have film criticism in this college. That'd be great.
Yeah, it's a much more doable, right?
Yeah.
Still doable, right?
It's still doable. Still doable.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Michelle. I appreciate you answering those questions.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your participation here, and also, you're here for a great question, and I am very enjoy engaging in those questions
Great.
and share that thoughts.
Well, I'm glad. Well, let's hear what they might have some questions.
Yeah.
Do you have questions for Michelle? This is the participatory moment. Yes, Shang, go ahead.
But anyway, so your agenda of using digital media for civic participation in art education, right? That's the agenda of the book. But of course, the question is how, and I would like to hear some concrete examples of how that attempt succeeded. And because we know that digital media, it's, we are wary about it because first of all, it's addictive. It's kind of designed to be addictive. And also because people do not have face-to-face kind of interactions. So very soon the conversations sinks to the bottom, right? So so how does some of the authors, I would ask you to just give one example of how the cases described in the book kind of circumvent or overcame these kind of difficulties. Like, did they design their art education program to be addictive, or if not, how do they compete with other type of more, obviously attractive programs on the digital platform, and how do they moderate the conversation so it actually remains civic? Just example, like concrete example.
Concrete example. Yes, actually every body has different cases and different procedures, and because also different media and different social issues engaged in there. There's a certain ways. If I bring the case, is that more like, especially this is really bring out the youth voice. So we really have also the participants, there's some cases, the participants to bring out the kind of a lot of a prompted kind of question in a way that for them to really engage the dialogue first, because we need to know these participants really bring out the certain social issue connection. Because youth sometimes, they are not directly, when you ask, what is your social issue? And then maybe they could talk a certain social issue, but that's not connecting to their own lives. But however, those are mediated part, how you have a dialogue and then bring out their thoughts to connecting between their personal life to social issues. So that is the places they start also thinking about what kind of medium they wanted to use, or what kind of ways do they bring out visually or sonic ways to bring out their voice. In that sense, we actually bring out a lot of pedagogical and methodological part. I don't know, I understand your question correctly here.
For example, the 11 authors there, did one of the article present a particular successful case of, art education through digital media that you can kind of describe? One of the authors, examples.
Well, go ahead and answer. I have one that came to my mind. You go ahead.
Okay. They have a lot of successful stories there too. One of the cases is actually, also like a media map. For example, one of the cases is a media map. So which is, in the South, a lot of, minoritized, the voice is really erased and never really, kind of bring out. And then, really university faculty, which is the author of this, and actually having relationship with those communities, and then also working together to how your stories bring out through those mobile podcasts. And that really kind of, in a way, to certain kind of a situation, those communities did not really could not bring out those, things. But however, in that way, they are connecting to this university faculty and being supported by the certain grant, and which is the space for them to make some mobile media in a way that they could even also going to the place, historical place, to really coming from the community voice to make the restoring process. Those are actually one of the ways, actually a lot of times community, they have their own views, but there's not much chance to bring out too. So that is one case I can bring out. There's many other, like through the computer game or VI, and using VI is even, there's a certain work when you see as even two-dimensional artist work. But however, those two-dimensional artist work always just a representation. However, there's more meanings and more instance and evidence, and there's more events around there. What I mean is context. How VI can really create those context to linking to those painting, to bring out more context-driven ideas, and where that comes from, what really gender or other social issues, this artist intended to. It's not just only through the only representation of the image itself. It's more layers. That's a kind of also creation of some media, and bring out the in connection to the civic engagement.
Great. All right. Let's take one more question, and then we can. I know there's food and beverages waiting. Yeah, go ahead. Fully Aimee.
Your book sounds pedagogy and how you're talking about civic engagement sounds pretty radical when I think about the state of K through 12 education. I think of my granddaughter who just started middle school this year. She's like 11.
Yeah.
And she moved from New York City to a community in New Jersey. She was going to a private school, that small social justice framework, classes mixed, second and third grade together. Now she's in a public school. And so I was asking her how it was going, and she's like, they don't let me think for myself.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, example, she was telling me about a project her art teacher, of all teachers, was giving her, and the art teacher was like, you can only use these colors, and so she's like, no, like, I don't want to use those colors. She told me, she said, Nanafo, I had to write her a letter and tell her, how can you do this? And when I think of traditional K through 12 education, I think it's not wanting to encourage critical thinking, whereas civic engagement projects, you have to engage critical thinking about yourself, others, and your community. And so I'm wondering if there is content in there that a traditional K through 12 school was very, they're not teaching critical thinking.
Right.
They're not, they're kind of, I always think of them training herds of cows. They're treating kids like herds of cows. Because when I have taught like first year classes to incoming undergraduates, particularly in art classes, I feel like I'm undoing what they learned in high school so that they can be free enough to think for themselves. I always want to, what do you think? How do I get the A? What do you want me to do? And it's like, no, this is, you're an artist, you have to. So I'm wondering what is in the book that might help that teacher who's in that very public school, K through 12, not supposed to teach critical thinking. In fact, it's being legislated out of the now, coming to 2023, it's being legislated out of kids. I'm wondering what is there to help that teacher who's got to deal with that mindset.
That's a very great question, and that's actually very challenging part, because teacher position, first of all, teacher position within the public school, as I mentioned, that it's in between, always they are monitored by the even, administrator, and then also parents. And that's a lot of our even teacher education is facing this challenge, because we know that this critical thinking is so important, but we cannot push forward within that structure. So we have to work on this in order to change the structure. That's what we also kind of really bring out this micro level of engagement to working with pushing those parts. So in this book, I think one of the ways they are approaching is that's why always connecting to youth lives. That's one of the ways, because if that is not connecting to youth lives, there's no such a rationales they could confidently bring out, because it's all this social issue. It's not something separate from this youth lives at all. It's totally so much connected. Even, however, oftentimes, certain times, adults and even youth do not realize that there are connection, their personal lives to connection to that. That's what our teachers' role there. How you connect those personal lives to these social issues and environmental issue. And that is the ways actually keep having dialogue to make a more connection to these youth lives. That could be the ways that the teacher can have a power to even talk to the administrator, talk to the parents. Otherwise, it's very, very actually risky positions.
Yeah, I agree.
I could not make this project as a total, 100% positive, say, yes, we made it kind of things. It's more about the challenges they bring out, what ways. It's always still in question. It's never gonna end until, this action is frequently we keep doing and more, this solidarity in the micro levels. Otherwise, we cannot push this, already structure, created. That's why it's very important for this teacher's position and teacher's actually direction, and also support by university and also or other parents too. So I think when I do this community work, we are doing the youth-oriented, but I also feel like, the adults' education and even administrator education, those aspects is something very important, the connection to community work. And otherwise, even, of course, depends on also where the school is located. It's a huge difference in U.S. context, right? Yeah. And particularly since I've been working with the refugee community, actually refugee community has their own agency. However, they were here, their mindset is, school is our blessing. And this U.S. is our blessing. But however, these kids going through the daily life, their thinking is changed. At some point, they all know that this is not a blessing place.
So that connection between school knowledge, school curriculum, and personal lives is crucial. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we're going to pause here, and there's some refreshments over there. And Michelle, I want to thank you so much. Thanks for your work. Thanks for your good work, and we look forward to your future projects. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Bae-Dimitriadis.
Thank you so much.